Since you got here.
Hey, Tar.
Hey, Cass.
I'm always so much faster about going live.
I know. I have 3 steps, and I think you only have 1. Maybe you have
Yeah.
more, but how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, too.
Thank you.
Is the music a little too loud?
It was when we started. I was going to mention that, but right now I can't hear it, so I think it should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, in a little bit we should get some viewers coming in here. Mine still says 0.
Maybe no one wants to join today. That's fine.
We'll just hang out together.
Yeah, let's just hang out together, you and I.
Oh, we are getting some people. Hi, Full Force.
If you guys are just joining us, make sure to say hi so we know that you're here and we're not just going to be talking to ourselves this whole time.
Yes. We can't see who's here unless you say hi in the chat.
Yeah. And we are streaming on X and on YouTube. So if you are catching us on YouTube, make sure to come and say hi over there too.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We have an exciting show for you guys today. We're going to be going through XRP and then we'll go through Bitcoin. And then we're going to do a little segment on Blofin. So we're going to show you the Blofin exchange, kind of go through that a little bit. And then we'll talk about altcoins and maybe do a little recap at the end. So a little bit different today, but we're hoping bringing in some other segments kind of makes things a little bit more exciting. So that's our goal for today. If you guys, so if you have been, wondering how to do futures and leverage, this is going to be for you. But we do realize that a lot of people in our live streams are already past that point. But that segment will be just for those people who are a little bit intimidated by it. So we're going to explain it here in a little bit. So hello, everyone. Tar, are you getting any hellos in your chat?
Yes, I am. Okay. Hi, Alberto, Scott, and that's it so far. Hey, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Tom. Hi, Martin. Hi, Russell. Hello, Buddha. Lots of people here today that I recognize. Awesome.
Yeah. So this week, we got major news from the SEC and CFTC about crypto. Did you hear that or catch that at all? I know you've been so busy this week.
But what was the news?
Well, they classified 16 cryptos as commodities. Like, we got that clarity that those 16 cryptos are actually commodities and not securities. So instead of the SEC going to be overseeing those assets, it's going to be the CFTC. So that's going to bring in tons more liquidity. A lot more institutions are going to be involved. I think that's going to accelerate a lot more exchange listings as well. And then we're going to start to see some ETFs on those assets. And then also more funds can be created off of those assets too. So I think it's going to bring in tons of liquidity on the market. And it really doesn't surprise me that it's happening right now, because we know that there is going to be this major shift in the market. Even though we are seeing one more low, it's almost like they passed that clarity, at least in the US. It's clear. There's more clarity now, at least in the US. So, but now everybody can be positioned on that next new low and take full opportunity of the wave that's going to be coming. So when we get into the altcoin section, I think maybe we can take a look at a few of those altcoins that they have classified. And a lot of them are ones that we already know and we've already been going through, but those are the assets that I believe that we need to pay a lot more attention to. And during that the next bull run, next altcoin season, those are the ones that are going to be getting a lot more attention from institutions and will be able to push to their full opportunity on that next wave 3. So
and even I think whenever we get a good classification, that always is nice to see kind of where their heads are at. You know, if they are identifying them as commodities, better than securities. So it's kind of nice to know like which direction we're headed. Even if all of them aren't reclassified, that's a good thing there.
Really good start too. And it's what we needed. That was the regulation or the regulatory just cloud that was hanging over the crypto market. And now that that's cleared up, it's
it's cleared in some cases. So it's kind of like hinting at where this is heading, you know? kind of understanding a little bit more behind their understanding and reasoning for things. So
and we're getting a request for Zcoin or Zcash later, which was not on the list. We know that already.
We'll take a look at that. It had a huge spike up, but it's been so volatile that it's really just recovering from the huge drop that it had. So definitely let's get into that. Okay. So if you guys are just joining us, the agenda for today is we're going to be going through XRP, looking at the macro as well as the micro. And then we'll flip over to Bitcoin, kind of do the same thing. And then we're going to go get into the Blofin exchange a little bit. And this is going to be especially helpful for people who are interested in futures and leverage, but don't exactly know where to start. This is going to be for you guys. And then we'll do altcoins and a little bit of recap. So we have a full exciting day planned. We want to do more of these special segments where we're going through different projects and possibly exchanges. So if you guys have a suggestion on what you want to go through next week, let us know. Some ideas we have are looking into Flare, like maybe wrapping something and explaining and showing how that works. Maybe even the DEX. And getting through that, maybe placing an order on the DEX.
Yeah, I would really love to check that out because it's very technical and I haven't even gone through all of the steps myself, but I know it's stopping a lot of people from actually using the DEX, which we know that it's a decentralized exchange. So there isn't that user interface that makes it really easy to use. So I would love to go through that during one of
that could be a good one, I think, for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's begin with XRP. I'm going to step back to the macro. Right now I'm pretty zoomed in. So let's get to the macro and get rescaled here. That's what we want to do first. Okay, so you should be seeing my XRP chart here on the daily time frame. And this is just going to be a recap for those that maybe are new or haven't been watching us. Also, we should probably introduce ourselves. I'm Tara and I were twin sisters. I'm Cassie, and that's my sister Tara. And we both are technical analysts. So that is what gets us up in the morning is the charts and looking at how things are developing from a technical standpoint. We don't do a whole lot with fundamentals, so it's interesting that Tara led with that big fundamental break. But we'll see. What we always see is how fundamentals really tie in with the technicals that we're looking at, and technicals really lead the situation. So that's why we heavily focus on technicals. What you're going to see as we go through the charts is basically our framework. So we've been spending the last 10 years looking at the market and developing a system that helps us read markets, predict them, and trade them. So you're going to see the RSI in action today. You're going to see Fibonacci retracements and extensions, as well as Elliott wave theory. And both of us strongly believe that that is really all that you need to be able to do, reading, predicting, and trading the market. So keep it simple and use this framework that we're showing you because it really is great. So here we are stepped back on the daily time frame. Like I said, we can see the full breakout from that 50-cent consolidation. I'm here on Coinbase and it doesn't have the full historical data, but that's okay because from that 50-cent breakout really starts our new trend. So that is what I'm capturing here. And you can see that we have a really clear 5 waves built up. This is definitely more evident after we had a lot of our development of our correction, but this is our full 5 waves that we're talking about. So since all-time high, we are in a wave 2 correction. Up until October, it was a little bit undetermined if this would still be a subwave 4 or come down to our deeper levels for a wave 2. But ever since that flush in October, it is very evident that we are on a wave 2. So what we know about wave 2s is that is the deepest level or deepest correction in the market cycle, and it targets 618 retracement and below. So XRP right now is below, like slightly below the 618 golden retracement, and we've been resisting that for almost over a month now. So we're going to get a little bit more zoomed in on that level. But what we can see zoomed out here on the daily is that we don't have a very clear pattern. A wave two typically does an ABC pattern, but that's just very difficult to define here with this price action. We are reaching the lower retracement levels, which is good. I think soon we will be turning around. And really, we can kick off into our wave three at any moment because we've already reached that golden retracement level. We don't really have to go further, although when we zoom in a little bit on the micro, it is indicating that we need deeper supports before taking off. So overall on this macro, we're finishing up a wave two and we are about to kick off a wave three. And that's what Tara and I have been excited about and screaming about for like months now. It's going to happen anytime.
And they'll thank us later. And it's going to happen so fast that everyone's
I was going to say, it's going to catch so many people off that it's going to be really quick.
Yeah.
So one reason why we believe wave two hasn't bottomed yet is simply because we're not taking off yet. We're not breaking any resistances at this point. We're actually struggling below major resistance. So at this time, we definitely are leaning to the belief that we still need lower supports in this wave two. So we're going to get a little bit more zoomed in on that. And we'll talk about this pattern here that I have identified there. So we can see the chat. If you guys have any questions as we go through this, just put it in the chat and we'll try to answer that. But not a whole lot has changed here on the macro. So I'm going to get zoomed in and talk a little bit more about what we're seeing there. It did get a little bit exciting like this past week. But nothing changed in the plan.
Yeah.
So I know so many were curious here on this spike, but you can see how we are just continuing to stay within our consolidation range here. This is on our small time frames. If I can zoom out just a tiny bit, I have identified this 5-wave pattern coming down. So we have a really strong impulse that we're working through. I'm not exactly sure where this is fitting in the wave two. But it's very clear that we have this impulse coming down that's not completed yet. So what they say is that if you can identify a good pattern in the market, look for the last wave three that you can identify, because usually wave threes are very obvious. And we have a really strong wave three here that's pretty obvious. One telltale sign is that we have a big impulse coming down with very little retracement, and our RSI here made an extremely new low. So this low was the lowest point of a few years that we had this low of an RSI. So this is where I'm counting that wave three. So once we can identify the last wave three, we can kind of move forward or backward in our count. Obviously, what's over to the right is most important because that's what's happening now or about to happen. So for this wave two and wave one, I'm less concerned with the exact placement of that. But I think we can still get a pretty good count. You can see from our major resistance there at 241, this is where I'm counting our impulse down. So after we had our wave three drop here, which was several weeks ago, we have been in this wave four. So this wave four has been playing out like a classic wave four, just tight consolidation, dragging everyone on, no real motive in the price. And we've already reached the targets for wave four. So typically a wave four would reach a 382 retracement, which coincidentally lines up to the golden pocket, that 6.5. But then also came up and reached the 618 retracement at our $1.65. So both of those targets were met pretty early on. And that's kind of what leads to a consolidation pattern in the market, is where we don't have a whole lot of participation from trading because targets are already met. And now we're just kind of waiting for the next breakout before a lot of traders will participate back in the market. So that's kind of what I think is playing out here. We just have consolidation forming ever since that high there. So XRP actually did not make a new high recently. Bitcoin did though. So Tara, you'll talk about that a little bit once we get to Bitcoin. But you can see the XRP is kind of just holding this consolidation pattern. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. And I'm going to try to call out the prices just in case you guys can't see the chart. This level here that's marked by my red box, this is actually the golden retracement on XRP. So this is the 618 retracement and the 65 retracement. That's at $1.53 and $1.65. So that is a major level in the market. On the macro, that is the 618 retracement. And price has just, ever since our wave 3 drop, just used that continuously as resistance. So until we get a flip above that major retracement, nothing in the plan has changed, and we are still looking towards our lower supports down below. We had this mapped out yesterday in our Discord, where we're tracking this 5-wave down from the top of our trend line here ever since that breakout a few days ago. That actually didn't break out, that a breakout attempt, the fake out, and coming down, and we're reaching the bottom of the trend line here right now. So this is actually a really critical moment. What we're seeing on the RSI is that we actually broke our consolidation pattern and are using it as resistance. So a lot of times this could start to lead to our last final wave down. And we're getting signals on the RSI before price is reacting. So that's important to keep in mind, is that a lot of times these signals come in on RSI before the price has reacted, which makes the RSI a great leading indicator because of this. So this count that I have here, I'm just going to try to get it most in view. This leads down towards our 87-cent support. So on Coinbase, that's the 854 retracement. On other exchanges, it's the 786 retracement. But across exchanges, we are aligned that that is the support we would be targeting in a new low. So I still think that that is where we are going to be headed. And I know we've been saying that for like a month now, but just the fact that we haven't had the strength to break above resistance just continues to strengthen that theory that we need to come down to support in order to break that. And as we developed more, we continue to get more subwaves that are aligned down to that level as well. So this is a possible plan here with our 5-wave down, with where we have wave 1 kind of reaching that bottom trend line there. So if I zoom in just a little bit, this is what we're looking at. And remember that with a consolidation pattern, we don't have to travel all the way to the apex. As it starts to get towards the apex, you have an increasing chance of a breakout from there. So it's almost like the tightening of a coil as price is approaching the apex. So we could break down or up at any moment from here. Right here really isn't a trading decision at this point. So what we're looking for is potentially price to come up for a wave 2, which right now lands at $1.53. So that's what we could see if price continues to kind of stay in our consolidation pattern. That would be the target. And obviously that is not a breakout. That's just kind of coming back up again to test resistance. There are some indications that we could be seeing that. What you see here is we have our price kind of reaching the bottom trend line and starting to form a little bit of a bullish divergence, which could ultimately send it up to $1.53 again before having our drop. But something to keep in mind is that with divergences, you really want to be careful using that signal at a trend line, exactly like we're seeing here. A lot of times that divergence just kind of shows that it's a major support, even if we continue on and break it. So really, as we came back down to test it again, I'm paying close attention here because any break of our trend line could start to push us down towards our target levels without doing a proper wave 2 kind of relief there. So that's kind of what I'm watching for. We have all of our textbook targets kind of mapped out here. If this were to do like a perfect ABC up to that target, it would look something like this, where we have A coming up to the 382, that's at $1.50, kind of having a small pullback and then coming up to $1.53. So it is definitely possible we have this wave 2 relief before breaking down more stronger towards our targets. But like I said, as we continue to test this bottom trend line, we could just start dropping at any point. The larger magnet in the market is down towards that 87 cents. So I'm just watching that closely. I don't know if it's going to play out this 5-wave perfectly. We are right at the end of this. So we could start to get really volatile until we reach that target down there. So this is what I'm watching for. What we would see is price breaking the bottom trend line and back testing as resistance. So we have a good resistance line on our RSI for tracking that. But we need to see price kind of follow through now, dropping the trend line and back testing as resistance. It should continue to hold this resistance line here. If we start to come up though, $1.53 is going to be the target. That would just be the classic wave 2 target at 618. So I know that I've talked quite a bit here and I don't want to bore anyone. So maybe we can flip over. Tar, do you have anything you want to say about XRP before we move on? Are you going to start with the high, with a macro, and then go in on Bitcoin?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, just like you
Okay.
did, I'll do just quickly on the macro just to get the positioning, and then I'll zoom in. But I do want to say that Bitcoin has already moved on to wave A and B, and the fact that XRP isn't moving yet. Remember, we talked yesterday that the end of this wave 1 that you have here, the targets for that were actually lower, below the trend line, and so those didn't get reached yesterday or the day before, and so I think that's why it's struggling to form this wave 2 now. I'm not sure that we're going to get, like you said, a proper wave 2 in this, especially because Bitcoin's already halfway done. So I'm wondering if what has already formed on XRP there, wave A and B already, and it might only come up to $1.47 then. And Bitcoin, I think, has possibly one more wave to go, which could cut short that wave 2, and it looks like it could only reach that $1.47. So that's just, that's what, and we know that $1.47 is such a critical level in the market, because on those larger exchanges, that's the 618 support, is that $1.47. So I know on Coinbase it's 165. On most of the other exchanges, because there is that huge price discrepancy between exchanges right now, that's the critical level on larger exchanges. So it's looking like it could just come up and test that one more time. But like you said, it could break down really at any moment, because it's already reached that target. So that's what we're watching for is the break.
Yeah, I wouldn't lean too heavily on this 5-wave count. Like I said, the stronger pull is down towards supports. We're just trying to see what the path could be on the way down there. So this definitely isn't something to be trading. But when Tar moves over to Bitcoin, it's kind of keep this in mind, because we like to mirror them up with each other, even if they aren't obviously the same price. They kind of flow with each other the same. So if Bitcoin has already seen its high, this may be all that we get for our wave 2, which would adjust our subwaves a little bit more. But right now it's just landing perfectly down towards 87 cents. So we'll kind of have to see how that plays out. Maybe we don't even get like really nice, clean subwaves. Just hoping that we kind of do. Before we move on to Bitcoin, my buy down here hasn't changed. I'm still buying 93 cents right now. And that's the top of this box. And it kind of captures all of our cluster of supports that we're getting on all time frames right there. So I think if you are planning on buying this next low or the bottom of the correction, I wouldn't wait until it gets exactly to 87 cents. I think you might miss out if you're just trying to capture the exact low. I think that we need to add more of a buffer to account for different exchanges. And we could have really high interest at really any prices below $1. So anything below $1, I think, is a gift, and you should try to snatch up. And I'm doing it at 93 cents. So that's what I'm waiting for. And as the days go on and that we're below $1.65, it just continues to increase the likelihood that those supports must be met before we get our huge wave 3 up. So yeah.
And so maybe you can talk about the wave 3 and why we think this is going to be such a gift, such an important time to buy around, less than $1. Maybe you can see what the next wave is going to bring.
Okay. Yeah. So if we come down towards that dollar or that 87 cents, and kick off our wave 3 from there. So wave 3 would start from the low of our wave 2 correction. We've talked about these targets like quite a bit, but if I just showed on the chart here, let me get a little bit zoomed out. For our wave 3, we're looking for an extension. And with the wave 3, this is going to be full participation in the market. So this is where everyone would be involved. We have news cycles releasing at this time. Algorithms will want to push the price as high as it can go. And the momentum sparks a lot of excitement from traders. They're going to try to push the price as high as it can go, which is why in a wave 3, we just get extension levels. And really it can extend to any extension until it gets exhausted. So once we start to get subwaves kind of printed on the way up, it will help us define a target a little bit better. But right now they're all kind of open in the air. So we have the $1.68, which is at 617.
No,
1.618,
yeah,
which is at $6.17. So that is the first wave 3 target. That's the non-extended wave 3, which is probably the most conservative level that we could target at this point. I definitely think that we're going to get an extension. So from there, we're looking at our other extensions. We have 2618 at $9.45. So that's a very common extension level. The 2618 is pretty significant. What we can say is that in the previous wave 1 breakout, the wave 3 of that reached a 4618 extension. And this one is on a much larger scale. We would actually be on like wave 3 of wave 3, which is a very large, significant wave. I think it could extend further than 4618, but let's go through the rest of these. So we have our 3618, which is where you can see my target is pointing to right now. That's at $12.74. Like I said, as we start to build subwaves on the wave up, we should get a very good idea of which one we're targeting, because it should be in a very clear 5-wave impulse that we reach one of these targets. But let's just look at these other ones while we're up here. 4618 is at $16. So another significant level. We could definitely reach that in this wave 3 breakout. I'm not going to go above 4618. I know Dara would kill me if I started to go up there. But Tara likes to stay much more conservative, and I like to be really optimistic.
About XRP only.
Yeah. And that is really why we're so excited about this time, because we, one, have already reached textbook wave 2 targets. We could kick off at any time. And if we don't, we are very close to that happening.
So how long do you think it's going to take to reach the 87-cent target?
I say this almost in every live that it's this week. But we are, we have this annoying consolidation that we're in, which is typical for a wave 4, and we are running out of time on that consolidation. With development, it's kind of changed the pattern just slightly. Like you can see, our consolidation was really to this point, and then we got a breakout, which kind of opened the pattern up a little bit more. But I do still think it could be this week. Because we are now testing the bottom of the trend line. We could start to drop towards our levels, and it should be pretty quick. Our wave 3 at least should be pretty quick, coming really close to our levels. So yeah, I would say like in the next few weeks that we would be at our 87
at the
cent.
bottom. Yeah. I definitely think this week is when we could see the break of that trend line coming down, but I don't know if it's going to be this week when the bottom has formed. So
yeah.
And we know, and I don't know how long we've been saying this, but it's been a really long time, that we need that one more last low. And we've, like I said, we've been saying this, but this should be the final low. Especially if XRP is reaching an 85% correction from 365. So that's just a major correction. And once it does reach that level, hopefully all of those macro levels, they've all been picked up as support. And hopefully that's enough support to kick it off onto wave 3. So
yeah, I'm showing here our wave 3 was on February 5. And ever since we had that wave 3 drop, that is what indicated that we're going to need another low below that, because that wave 3 drop had huge selling pressure, which normally the market doesn't pivot on that strong of selling pressure. So when our RSI is that low, we need to come back down for a double bottom or slight new low. So really, over a month and a half, we've been saying that we need this next low, and then we've been consolidating since then in this wave 4. Which, like I said, the more development we're getting on the wave 4 just leans even more that we need that support, because we are failing to break any resistance. And once it is on wave 3, that should be very, very obvious to us. Like, it should be full on party at that point, because we would not be stopping at any of these local resistances here. So that hasn't happened yet. So we are definitely leaning towards this happening down here at 87 cents.
Soon.
Yeah, soon. Okay. Soonish.
Soonish. Okay, so let's get over to Bitcoin and see what's going on there.
Sounds good. I'm going to flip over to your screen.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start on the macro. If you guys have been following us for a while, we've mentioned obviously these so many times, but for those that haven't been following us, it's going to be really important to understand where we are in the market cycle, and then you'll know why we think this is what's going on in the lower time frames in the day-to-day is going to be important.
And really, that's a good practice for any analysis, is you start kind of zoomed out on the macro, get your positioning, like Tara put it, and then you start to zoom in on the subway. So that's what you should always be doing when you're looking at something.
Okay, so here's the monthly time frame on Bitcoin, and what I believe this first 5 waves here, this was listed on this exchange. What was that, 2017? So it doesn't have all of the very first cycles, obviously. So this was one of our first waves when it went up to 19,000. And then this was another cycle when it reached that 67,000 or 69,000 or so. And then we're on this new trend coming up here. So, and after this full 5-wave structure that formed right here, it formed this wave 2 correction. We know it's now wave 2 because it broke really low down to the 786 support and broke into wave 1 over here. So we know this was a wave 2 correction. So after wave 2, we'd be tracking a wave 3, and now we know it to be wave 3 after it's already developed. It made a new high past this wave 1 top over here, and it perfectly reached the 1618 extension, which is, like Cassie said, that textbook target for wave 3. So that's our new all-time high, our current all-time high there at around 125 or so. A lot of exchanges didn't actually reach their 1618. I think it's only Binance and a couple others. I think Coinbase got about $100 away from reaching that 1618. So these lines that I have up here, this is actually where a lot of liquidity is sitting on those other exchanges where their 1618 is. So this is Binance kind of front running everyone because they reached that target. But all those other exchanges could not offload as well. So, and now we know that it's in this correction coming down from that all-time high there. So, wait, I might have to go in a little bit. Let's see if the weekly will show me. Okay. So this is the weekly time frame. Sorry, I had to mute for a second because I had babies crying. Okay, so here is that all-time high there at around 125,000. From this level here, I've been tracking this as a wave 4. Okay, so here's that top. I was tracking this as a wave 4, which has a textbook target of that 382. But when it had that flush coming down here, you can see it broke into wave 1 over here at around 67,000. So normally when wave 4 does break into wave 1, it's invalidated. But because this is such a macro scale on this highest time frame, we still don't really have confirmation of that yet. It is holding above the wave 1 still, even though we had a wick that did drop below it, it's holding above that level there at 67,000. So right now, so let me, okay, it's a little hard to see on this time frame, but this 0.5 fib here would have been really our last support for wave 4, which is at 64.4, and you can see that there's that wick there that technically did invalidate it to be a wave 4. We are above that macro 0.5 now, so right now we're in between the macro 382 at 79,000 and above that 0.5 support at 64.4. So we're trending in between these two supports here on that macro time frame. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and show you guys what we think is happening next. Okay, so here you can see it a little bit more clearly. These are those levels that I just highlighted on that higher time frame, that 64.4 and then the 79,000. And you can see we're just trending and ranging in between those two critical levels right now. Because of this flush here, when it broke past that support, like Cassie said, when it makes a new low like this on this RSI, typically that's telling the market makers that there's more liquidity and more room to drop on that next wave coming down. So this is just signaling to us that it could come down for another low. And so right now we're trying to track this price action right here to determine if we are going to come down for a new low or if this was enough and we're going to be coming up to new highs. So, so from the top, okay, I have to zoom out a little bit. So from the top there, what we're doing is looking to the subways to try to determine what type of correction has been forming so far, and if we had a full ABC or if it's looking more impulsive like a 5-wave structure. So that's really what we've been tracking since that top there in last October. From that top, because of the flush now, we do believe that it is forming a full ABC, and I'm going to show you guys that. So from the top here, we're looking at our first 5-wave structure right here. We believe this to be wave B here. You can see it reached, just barely missed that 0.5 fib here, which is the wave B target. Wave 2 would have gone up to much higher levels. So right now we're tracking this as the wave B, and then now we're expecting a wave C. So the wave C is still developing. So wave C is typically 5 waves in itself. And because we know this to be wave 3, because of the extreme RSI, this impulsiveness and just this big move coming down, we know this to be wave 3, possibly of this wave C that we've been tracking. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and show you guys the wave 4 and that 5th wave target just to end the wave C. Before I do, this is this 1 fib here. We measured out wave C. Wave C typically targets 1-to-1 of A, so it's usually the same size as A. So that's how I got this 1 fib here. So this full ABC should be targeting 52.2. So you know that the macro levels, which they're not subjective, everybody should have these same macro levels. These are not wave targets. It's just using pretty much the all-time low and all-time high on Bitcoin. So that's what makes these that highest time frame macro support levels. That's that 618 here at 49.9. So you can see the full ABC is targeting around that level there, around 52.2. So this is creating a little bit of a range for us for buy levels to finish out the full ABC correction. So let's zoom in a little bit and take a look at the subwaves of this wave C and this wave 4 so we can get a better understanding.
Yeah, what's interesting is it definitely is mimicking what we're seeing on XRP, where we're coming in some type of subwave 4 and we need another final low down to exhaust the selling. But what's interesting is the pattern is much more clear on Bitcoin than it is on XRP. So looking over there and how it has almost that perfect ABC, nice, strong 5 waves down, that makes it a lot more clear and almost gives me more confidence on XRP. In the count that we have over there. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. And so the reason why this wave 4, I believe, is taking so long is for for one, we're in between those macro cycles, and half the market doesn't want to drop below that 0.5 because they are still trading this as a wave 4. But then we also have targets that are going to be breaking that, and wave targets that are targeting lower than that 0.5. So right now there's a huge fight, and we know that to be always happening during a wave 4. So this is the fight that is happening right now, between the bulls and the bears in the market, and that's really evident in the price action. So this is that drop there that I just showed you on the higher time frame. This is that low on the RSI. This is actually the same selling pressure that we saw during Bitcoin's last correction when it was down around 15,000. So this is just extremely bearish and very heavy selling pressure right here. So after this wave 3 drop, we're tracking a wave 4. Wave 4 has a textbook target of a 382 retrace. And so you can see here, let me it's a little hard to see, but this is that 382 because I've had to drag it so far because just how long this has been taking. So this is that 382 right up here. You can see right after the wave 3 drop, it went right to the 382 as resistance. So it didn't form any waves. We didn't get any type of correction until it reached that. Most of the time when the market comes straight up to that wave 4 resistance like that, it oftentimes forms into a complex correction. And when it was at this level, because of that price action and the way it developed, I had mentioned that it is possible that it does come up to that 0.5 resistance instead of just that 382. So the 0.5 is up at 75.4. You can see that it was just kind of trending sideways until it tried to come up and reach that level. Here is that gap, which is really bothersome because the market was so close to finishing there and reaching that resistance and filling all of that resistance there, but it didn't quite reach it. So I believe that's why it had to come down and then try one more time, and it just reached that 0.5 resistance at 75.4. So I do believe that wave 4 is finally done on Bitcoin, and this is what could have been taking XRP and a lot of other alts a long time, or just why they're trending sideways too, is because Bitcoin really needed to reach that resistance up there. So, and this is that 1 fib, like I just mentioned on the higher time frame, we have an ABC tracked out here. That 1 fib would be wave C hitting its target as well. So both of those were very critical to be reached, and you can see we finally got that filled on this most recent action just now. So from that top there, I am tracking this as the start of my wave 5 because I do believe that it just reached, it was a new high during the whole correction. I believe it just reached its target and is about to start the 5th wave coming down. So from the top there, you can see we had already had, actually let me go in a little bit, and you can see that it already had a full, where's my hours? We'll go to the hourly time frame. This had a full 5-wave structure from that top there just a couple days ago, you can see, and it reached the 618 extension perfectly for that 5th wave. So this is when any time from that top there you see a full 5 waves forming, we know this to be that first wave of the impulse coming down. So from the bottom here, we're going to be tracking a wave 2 coming up. And this is just going to be sub wave 2 of our 5th wave coming down. So let me get that mapped out for you guys real quick, and you guys, so you have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So from the top there, we're looking at a 5-wave impulse. So it's going to be wave 1, wave 2 coming up, and we'll talk about the wave 2 targets here. Wave 3 should be breaking that macro support here. So that's going to be a really defining moment in the market when it breaks that macro support. Right, well, oops, I lost them. Hang on. Right now, I'm going to measure it again. Let me just get these plotted a sec. So right now I have this wave 3 set at the 618, which is that textbook target for wave 2. But this wave 3 will be adjusted with whatever higher the actual price that wave 2 reaches. So this is a liquid target. For now, it's targeting 61.5. And so I'm just going to be, like I said, moving this wave 3 target with the actual for wave 2. And then after wave 3 finishes, we'll have a wave 4 which is most likely going to come back and test the breakdown of that macro support level there, and we'll get that fib target. This is just forecasting pretty far into the future. So once some of these does start to print, some of these candles, we'll get a better understanding of these. But and then we have that fifth wave coming here. So and we'll get down to these in just a second, but I just wanted to show you guys, just for context, what I'm talking about. So right now we're
when you say breaking major support, is that a new low? Or
it's
what
not
is
a
that?
new low yet, because the last low is at 60,000. So if I go, you can see here,
Okay.
it's going to come down pretty much to a double bottom. And this is why we're seeing so much support right around a double bottom. And it doesn't surprise me at all that this wave 3 is going to come down and test it and bounce from that level, because there is support here that should give us a little bit of a relief. But then we're going to come up and use that macro as resistance. So,
and that's interesting because that's exactly what we have measured for XRP is wave 3 coming down really close to our double bottom, getting a little bit of relief, and then coming to the 87-cent target. So that's really interesting that that's aligning exactly over on Bitcoin as well.
And I think the reason is because now they're finally on that wave. Where XRP was just kind of trending sideways, nothing was really happening because it was really waiting for Bitcoin to finish. And I think because it just reached that resistance, now we're going to start to see alignment in the market, and it's really going to start to push through, hopefully, very clearly through these last few waves that we have here. So we say one more wave left, but I have shown you how it's going to be 5 waves within that one wave coming down. So it is a little bit higher of a time frame, one wave, but if you go down to subwaves, it'll be broken down into 5. So that's where we're tracking here is this wave 2. So wave 2 has that textbook target of the 618 here, and I just measured that full 5-wave structure to get our resistances on here, and so far this is what has developed of our wave 2. So wave A just missed that 382 target at 715. It got to around 714 or so about $150 off of that. So I don't like when there's a gap like that. I don't like when it doesn't perfectly reach that. That could also be signaling to us that the market's going to come up and at least fill this level here. So that's what we're watching for now is a wave B and supporting right around wave B levels. And so we might have to go into smaller timeframes to see this, but we have this 0.5 fib here, which is textbook target for wave B. But wave B can really come down as far as a double bottom and still be wave B. But you can see it's holding pretty nicely here around these targets that I have highlighted. It just made a little bit a new low here, so we're going to have to adjust our wave C target using this low here. But in general, this is trying to hold it. And if you can put your head into the market for a second, you know that we just reached the liquidity at resistance. Just now on Bitcoin, it's formed 5 full waves down. We know that this retrace coming up, a lot of people are not convinced that we're going to be turning around here. So that's why I believe this wave B, when it started to drop, got a little more bearish than a normal wave B would. But this is still typical for wave B. So
and what's so interesting is that wave B at the same time was just another touch of XRP's trend line.
I know, and that's what you're saying. I was like, well, Bitcoin's already on wave B, so like I don't know if XRP is going to get up to 153. It really could just range sideways. Until Bitcoin.
Our other levels for XRP were $1.47, $1.50, and $1.53. I think $1.53 would be the max because that's the full wave 2 target. But like Tarja said, the subwaves of XRP are coming in short, where we may not get that full relief for wave 2 like we're seeing here on Bitcoin.
Well, and we're about to measure this wave C, and it doesn't even look like it's going to be reaching the 618, and it's just looking kind of bearish, to be honest, because I just threw up that 0.5 there. Let's get wave C measured because we already have wave A printed and wave B. I think it's only going to be reaching that 0.5 now. So we're going to get that measured right now. So wave C has that textbook target of the 1 fib, which is just matching the same size as A. And so with this wave B here in that shortened wave A, this wave 2 is going to be cut short. So this wave 2 looks like it's only going to be reaching that 71, 8 or 9 level, which is such a critical level on Bitcoin. It's that macro. It's that 382, actually it's a little bit higher than where we are now, but it's that 382 textbook target for this entire wave 4 correction. So we broke down below it, and now in this wave 2, we're going to come up to it as resistance, and it's going to be what's looking like very strong resistance now at that 71.8. So like I said, it missed the fibs over here, and now with this lower wave B, our wave C is going to be only targeting that level there. So we're gonna have to update.
Right. Can you, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but can you also
okay.
put the 1.236 on that
Sure.
C target? I want to see if it aligns to your 0.5. I think you have
Sure.
it on the right, the third one down on the right.
Oh, I have it. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just curious if we get better alignment. Okay. So
Yeah.
that 1.236 is an extended C target. Besides,
Yeah.
normally we would target 1, but sometimes if I put in the 1.236 for an extension, it kind of lines a little bit better.
Yeah.
We could see as high as that here on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What is that price tar?
To 72.5. But
Okay.
I already know that this 71.8 or 71.9 is very significant. So
Yeah.
it's going to be heavy resistance. And actually, when it started and we had wave 2 coming up even higher, I was a little bit hesitant, and I really didn't think it was going to be able to push that high on wave C. So this is actually lining up a lot better. And now that the waves have started to print, it's a little more, just more confirmation that it's going to be very strong resistance there. So, and actually when we get onto the wave 3 target, you're going to see that if wave C did come up to that 618 there, it would not have lined up very nicely at the bottom. But now that it's not pushing up as high, I'm going to show you that it is actually going to be lining up a little bit better. And so, yeah, so during this wave 2 now, what we're looking for is another impulse, or mini 5-wave structure coming up and reaching that level perfectly at the 71.9 or so level. And make sure you guys, when you are putting the fibs in, make sure you're putting the actual highs and lows of the candle so that your coordinates are perfect, and then therefore your fibs will be perfect too. So let's get that wave 3 measurement put on, or just adjusted then with that new target for wave C. So we have that 618, which this, like I said, this was using the 1618. This was using the 618 for wave 2 up there. But now that we're on wave C already, and it looks like it's going to be hitting major resistance, I'm just going to lower that to that fib there, the 1 fib at 71.9. And so you can see that that is bringing the 1618 down to 60.3, which is exactly our double bottom. So that does not surprise me at all that we're going to come down and hit this pocket of support here and then bounce for wave 4. So let's get wave 4 and 5 put on there. And then this is to show you guys that we're going to be forecasting and obviously tracking this 5-wave structure as it develops. But with these forecasts in this textbook target, what you're going to see is that that 5th wave is coming in short of our full target. So what we're expecting as this develops is it could be just very bearish. We could have an extended wave 3 breaking a little bit past here, or even just a shortened wave 4 in an extended 5th. So during these waves here, we have to pay very close attention. We know that this is getting very close to the end of the correction and just a couple little sub waves left. It could just really just drop right to that target without making textbook waves on the way down. So we have to watch this very carefully. So let's get wave 4 put on here. We're going to just use all of wave 3. So we're going to use the top, the target there at 719, and then that wave 3 target. So wave 4 has the textbook target at that 382, as I've mentioned. I'm going to keep the 236 just because it could be that halfway mark on that wave 4. So you can see how this 382 is just a little bit above this macro 644 at 65,000. What I'm thinking is going to happen is that this wave 4 is just going to come, or wave 3 is going to drop a little bit lower than the fib possibly. You can see over here that we do have other liquidity ranging as low down as 59.6 or so. So you can see that if this wave 3 comes down, looks like it could come down right to that the bottom pocket there at 59.6, and then that would line up our wave for, using that macro level as resistance. So like I said, because these waves aren't perfectly targeting this lower levels down here, there's going to be some extension and possibly some waves that are not necessarily textbook pretty as it starts to develop and finish off. So right now,
can you call out the price for your wave 4? It's a little bit hard to read.
Yeah. So so if wave 3 extends to that 59.6 area here, or around almost exactly at 60,000 is what I'm expecting for 3. We'll have to use that actual low to measure the wave 4. But right now, wave 4, I believe, is going to come up and test the macro 644, so 64,400 as our resistance for wave 4. So anytime the market breaks down like that, it should come up, especially because of how critical and macro this level is here. So it's going to break down, come up and test it as resistance, and then push for the final subwave of the 5th wave of this wave C, of the full ABC of this wave 2 correction. So that's why we're saying that there's this major shift about to happen in the market, because all of those waves that I just mentioned are going to be finishing at that exact same time. So that's signaling to us that we're about to enter a major shift in the market once this wave is complete. So, and then let's get that 5th wave target, which I think I did right here. Yeah, so let's use our wave 3. So I do think this wave 3 is going to drop to that lower level possibly and fill all this, and then come up to test this level. And so that just brings our 618 extension for the 5th wave at around 54.4. So I'm going to show you.
What is the one extension for wave 5?
Why? Or this subway 5?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
One that we never agree on. Put that one on there for me.
So that's a little too low. So that comes in at around 48.1. I'm saying it's too low because this level here, this is the macro 618 support on Bitcoin. So this is going to be very strong support.
What price is that macro?
On Binance, it's at 49.9. You can see here. So I do want to show that we have that C target, this wave C target, like we just showed on those higher time frames at 52.2. We have that higher time frame 5th wave coming in exactly at 52.2 because of that new high there. And that's also why I was thinking wave 4 could target as high as that 0.5, is because it lines that the next degree up. 5th wave here at that 618. And then these are subwaves of the 5th wave. And so the 5th wave of wave 5, you can see, is coming in short at 54.4. So like I said, we're going to have some extensions and possibly even having wave 4 not go as high, but it really should. It really should test that as resistance, especially with the breakdown. And then maybe wave 5 will extend down to 52.2. So as this develops, we're going to be adjusting these fib targets accordingly. And actually, Cass, sorry, I'm going to take out your one fib. I don't like how.
I did want to mention how in your subwaves and we always do this with Bitcoin and especially over in like traditional markets like stocks. But normally you would target, like, see here how on the wave 3 it's not extended. It's the 1618.
Right.
For Bitcoin and traditional markets, that's where you would target. Yeah. But a lot of like XRP and our smaller altcoins, that's where we get the heavy extension and expansion in that part of the market. So I think it is good that you have that at 1618 and not coming any further. Yeah. But we do have to keep in mind that it is a subwave and that wave 3 could extend to that 2618.
One of these is going to extend and not hit the level perfectly, but I just know that there's a big pocket of support here. So it's going to warrant just some kind of bounce, and it's probably going to form our wave 3 right at this level here, which is the exact double bottom. So there's only 2 subwaves very, very detailed waves after this wave 3 here. And you can see wave 3 is going to double bottom. A lot of people are going to believe that the market is bottomed here at this double bottom. The one thing that we're going to be watching for is the RSI. And we know that the full waves are not complete. We know if you know Elliott wave theory, this full wave will not be complete. It should be in 5 waves. At that point, it'll only be in 3 waves. So that's one indication. But bouncing off of this level here is going to tell, or, a lot of people are going to start to think that that was the bottom. On this wave 3 here, we're going to look to the RSI, and the RSI should be making a new low here. Like we showed on those higher time frames, it should be making a new low, dipping into just very high strength, dipping down into here, down into oversold area. And that's when we know that we should have one more test, one more low in price that isn't as low as that low that the wave 3 is going to make. So that's also going to tell us that this wasn't the bottom here at a double bottom, and then especially resisting at the macro and coming down again. So this 5th wave here, if it does have that bullish divergence there, that's going to be great. That's going to also be extra confirmation that all of those waves that we had pointed out to you are done. We have a full ABC that has formed at that level, a full 5 waves for C, and then a full 5 waves for the 5th wave of C. So it's just beautifully coming all together finally. And hopefully all these waves will be soonish. Yeah, we're very close, guys. And that's why we're getting really excited. So ideally, we want this 5th wave to reach all the way down to the macro 49.9 level, ideally, because I don't see us getting this close at 52.2 and not scooping up the 618 support. And hopefully it does, because if it does reach all of this liquidity down here and all of this support, then we have a really good chance for Bitcoin to be on just an explosive, huge wave coming after, because we know in Elliott wave theory, if a correction comes down all the way to the 618, the 618 is really all it needs to send an asset onto wave 3. So if it does come down here, that will invalidate it as a wave 4. So everybody that is in the market thinking it's a wave 4 will finally be on the same page. And so when we have more participants, we'll have just a lot more strength and a lot more support in buying, and that'll just be great to reach this level before it starts to come up. So that's what we're watching for next on Bitcoin, and why we're so excited about what's to come. And I was just thinking I was going to go over the wave 3 target, but I don't think so yet. I think maybe we'll save
that one for another
one. Save that for maybe not next week, because I do think that this is going to be maybe 1 week here for wave 3. And then wave 4 could be even another week or a few days. And then I think another week for the 5th wave coming down. So I think that we're still about a few weeks away. I think maybe a month away from reaching this bottom here. And I've shown before that Bitcoin sometimes comes down to this target, especially this being a wave 2. If it comes down to the 618, it could trend sideways for a little bit here and build support right at these levels before it starts to take off. So I don't think it's going to come down and bounce necessarily very quickly. It could come down and range a little bit and then start to kick off. And so we won't be really excited or really can confirm the bottom. Well, we have a lot of waves that are closing there, and hopefully the RSI will help. But once we do break up past this 382 support here at 79,000, that's really going to be a good indication that we're on this new trend. And so there's major resistance here that really needs to break before we can get too excited about what's to come. But
and I know you've said like for a few weeks now that it could like linger for several weeks down at the bottom, but also it could just really take off from there. So it's not a for sure thing that it's going to linger down there. I think coming down to a 618 retracement could be significant enough, to kick us out of resistance. But like you said, we have a lot of resistance above that. So many subwaves are aligning as a significant resistance. Really, the only thing that's going to prove that we found the low is a new high. So that's really the only confirmation. But we should get a lot of signs before that, and everyone should be prepared. I really think that it's great that, or if we would have Bitcoin aligning to its 618 wave 2 and then XRP, on its wave 2 that it's been on. So
Yeah.
That's like you said it so well. It's going to be nice to have both of them on the same wave coming up, as opposed to Bitcoin kind of teetering between wave 5 and wave 3.
Yeah.
So it would be really nice to see alignment there, and that's what we need in the market here.
And also, we know that, or we very strongly believe that the news follows the markets, and the markets do not follow the news. So it would not surprise me if, because we're at just these very detailed last few waves here, we should start to see some very bullish news coming out. So that all the clarity that just came out on those 16 coins, that's the type of news that we should start to see now, before it reaches the bottom. So a lot of people are going to be caught in these waves right here because of all the news that should be coming out, and even just
bearish news. Yeah, saying. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, or any news.
I don't think we would
get a lot of news.
I don't think we'll get a whole lot of bullish news until our bottom is in.
Right. And I was just thinking about that Clarity Act that a lot of people are waiting for. That could really come after we've already reached the bottom here. So the fact that we are so close, though, and we are expecting some regulations to come in, does not surprise me that we're going to start to see that before this huge wave that could possibly kick off on Bitcoin and a lot of those altcoins. So just pay attention. Just don't be swayed by the news right now. In fact, probably just tune it out and just focus on the charts here, because these are the levels that we should be reaching before we reach the bottom. And you don't want to be too emotional during this time, because they're going to try, especially if it is on a wave 3, they're going to try to get everybody out of the market. So not that many people could be taking.
And that would come in the form of really bearish news as we start to come down towards our targets. We should see some really bearish news one day, and then we know that here in crypto, the next day it's a completely different script flip.
Yeah.
So I would, like Tara said, I would just avoid whatever the news is saying. Focus on the price levels that we're reaching here and the price action as we reach them. So the RSI is going to be a really good indicator to help us see what momentum is looking like and what the algorithms are thinking as we're approaching those price levels. So that's what's going to help remove the emotion in our decisions, is just sticking to what the charts are saying.
Yep. And as this, I think next week during our live, if you don't know, we go live every Friday. So next week, I think what we're going to be seeing is this wave 3 here. So that's something that we can expect in the next week after that little wave 2 test of 71.8. We should start to see a drop, a very bearish drop of this macro here. Is just going to feel very bearish. But just trust the plan and try to keep all emotions out as it comes down. And if it does reach this double bottom here, just trust the plan. Just know that I've already outlined it for you, that we're going to be coming up as resistance and should be making one more low here soon.
One more low. So Lisa asked if crypto could go up before the Clarity Act. And I think what we're saying is that we could find our bottom before we get news on the Clarity Act, and that should come at a time where we're impulsive at that time. So we should see really clear signs of gaining momentum, and a lot of times we already see on the charts that should happen, but when news gets released, that's blamed a lot on the news because it's accompanied with a big impulse in the market. So one, we should already have found our low by the time the Clarity Act gets released or addressed. And we could be seeing good signs of an impulse at that time too. I'm wondering, not necessarily new highs.
I mean, like I said, we try to keep the news completely separate from the charts because of that. But I'm wondering if we're going to get very bullish news here at the double bottom. And then a lot of people are going to expecting that to be the low. It's possible that we get very bullish news here. And then we're going to come up. And once we start dropping for the 5th wave, that's when everyone's going to be caught off guard, because they're going to think the market bottomed here. But no, it's going to be hitting resistance. And we're going to be coming down for a very it's going to feel very bearish, because it's going to drop from 64.4 all the way down to 50,000 possibly. So in a 5 5-wave structure. So this is going to feel very bearish as it starts to drop here. But I'm wondering if we're going to get bullish news right at the double bottom. But yeah, we try to keep it completely separate for that reason, because the market's always going to be targeting fib levels, and the news just comes in as noise to try to kick everybody, shake everybody out of the market so that nobody in retail makes money. So we need to stick to the plan here. And we're going to keep, like I said, we'll keep adjusting these with the actuals. With whatever price is printed here, we'll keep tracking this together. But yeah, we're so close. I'm so excited, actually, to see this final 5th wave starting to take shape. So yeah.
Thank you all for being here. Are you ready to move on to our next segment?
Yeah, I think we should do that. That'll be really good for a lot of people. I know a lot of people are nervous to trade futures and leverage because they don't know how. They've never done it. So I'm excited for Cassie to take you guys through the exchange and show you how to place a futures trade. So yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah. So we're going to switch over to Blofin a little bit, and then we'll come back to the charts. We'll share altcoins. We'll see if you have any altcoin requests. I've been kind of capturing them as they've come in. We'll flip over altcoins, and then we'll do a quick recap before closing out for the weekend. So what we're going to do is flip over to Blofin, and we're just right on our exchange here. I'm not sure. I think I need to go to, okay, yeah, there. So what you see here is Blofin. If we're going to show you today exactly how to place a futures trade with leverage. So if you've been ever, curious about it and wanted to see what it's like, this is for you. We know that a lot of our viewers are already kind of past this stage. But this is going to be for you if you are not. And if you're just kind of wondering what it's all about. So we use Blofin, and that's what you see here. I'm going to go through the exchange a little bit and kind of navigate the interface. And then we're going to try to place in order. And then you can see kind of what that would look like. So for futures, that is just betting on a direction. So when people talk about futures, you actually aren't trading, the underlying asset. You actually really aren't trading XRP when you're in a position on XRP. You're just trading pretty much a contract of that. And you're betting if the price will go up or the price will go down from a certain point. So that's futures. And then leverage just kind of helps you control a larger position with less money. So with leverage, say you were on 10 times leverage, you're controlling 10 times your position size in that position. So the biggest mistake that new people make is doing too much leverage. And we see it all the time. There's some crypto exchanges that go all the way up to like 150 times, which is straight nonsense. Like no serious traders ever using that high of leverage. So I really think that higher leverage is just kind of meant to trick kind of new traders into using that and wasting their money and putting the money back towards the exchange.
Yeah. So how much leverage would you recommend then for the beginner trader?
I always stay under 5 times leverage. I've been on 3 times leverage and feel comfortable with that. So I would say be careful using really any leverage, but I think anywhere between like 2 to 5 times is a good sweet spot. Remember that you still have to put in risk management. So you still have to place a stop loss, know when you're going to exit if the position isn't going to go in your favor. So it's not like you can just hold it forever. Anytime we have a big flush in the market, the exchanges know where your liquidation point is. So they will be targeting your liquidation point because that's straight liquidation for the market. So be careful about that. And it actually becomes, you would want to tighten up your stop loss the higher your leverage goes. So we'll talk about that a little bit once we actually get into a position. But people use leverage in futures because one, they can trade both up and down. So with spot buying, you really can only get into up positions or long positions. But with futures, you're able to short the market. So that creates a lot more opportunities for people. And the other reason that people use it is you really don't need a huge account. You can trade with a much smaller account and make more money because you have leverage. And then also people use it because it actually makes your analysis a little bit more effective if you are trading with smaller amount of money and putting in that leverage. So that's kind of like the reason why people use it. But like I said, the biggest mistake that people make is just doing way too much leverage and kind of getting caught up in what that leverage would give them in a winning position. So I'm going to go through the exchange here a little bit. Really, all exchanges are very similar. They all have the same kind of widgets. All of them usually will have a trading view chart here, which has all of our trading view tools that we normally use. Whenever you're in a leverage position, it's always suggested that you use the chart on the exchange that you're trading on. And this is a good way to do that. You can pull your fib levels here and fib retracement targets right here on the exchange, and you can see your position on the chart, which is really, really helpful in a lot of cases. And you can kind of arrange the widgets however you want. This is the standard default, I believe, or maybe I moved the trade over here. But these are all just different widgets. So you have your position, your trade, you have the chart, and then some other information down at the bottom, like your position, open orders, all your history, that kind of thing. So to pick our first pair, maybe we will do XRP. So it's always important to get into the, like I've done this, like I'm admitting a few times where I was like in some like I had this crazy scalp setup that I was looking at, and then I come over to the exchange and I type in the wrong pair and get into like the complete wrong pair. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you are typing in and selecting what you want. So if I just start with XRP, we have our futures contracts here and then spot. So spot is normally long positions and just straight buying the actual asset. Futures are different. Like I said, you're going to be buying a contract and betting whether it goes up or down, basically. So normally I am on the USDT pair, so XRP USDT, because I have my account funded with USDT. There are other types of contracts you can get into, like you could have USD in your account and be trading with that pair. And sometimes you can even have like a coin margin. So you could be trading like XRP to Bitcoin pair. It all depends on really what you want to do. But this XRP USDT is a good starting point here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this section here. This is where you put in your trade. And there's some different terms here. Like I said, most of the exchanges are exactly the same. So as you go to different exchanges, it will be just another regurgitation of all the same information, but it really is pretty simple. All that we're trying to do on this exchange is have it manage our position. Whenever I'm in a position, I go over and I'm mostly tracking the trade on TradingView and just kind of using the exchange to manage my position at that point. So don't let any of this kind of scare you. It really is quite simple when you just boil down what the purpose of this is. So we have XRP, it's at $1.43. We have the price right here. And this has all of our information like our change, our high price, our low price, our volume, different funding, which it's so minimal that you really don't have to pay attention to funding. But there are certain times in the market where you're either paying like a tiny bit of money to put in your order, or you could be receiving a little bit of money to having your order kind of resting there. So it's like a taker maker type fee or money. So it's really insignificant that you really don't need to pay attention to that, but a lot of people kind of get caught up in the fee. But this is kind of like your fee here, and then your chart. So let's get into the trade part here. We have different types of leverage. You could be on isolated or cross margin. So there's two big differences here. I am generally always on isolated margin or leverage. And on an isolated, you really are only risking the money that you're putting into your position. So whatever I put in the position, if it hits my liquidation point, I could lose all of that money in the position. And your liquidation level is heavily dependent on your entry point into that position. So where you put in your order. Where cross is a little bit different. This is going to take into account everything that is in your account. That's not necessarily what's in your position. And you would get a much more favorable liquidation point. But then at that time, if you do hit liquidation, you're risking your entire account on that. So that's the biggest difference. I like to stay in isolated. And then this is where you adjust how much leverage you're going to put in. You can see that right now I'm at 50 times leverage. So definitely want to scroll that down. 2 times leverage, 3 times, 5 times. I think that this is a good sweet spot here. And generally low leverage at that point. So I'm just going to do a 3 times leverage and then confirm. And then we have our different types of orders that we can put in here. For a limit order, this is going to be an order that's sitting there, resting, waiting for the price to reach your entry point. So for example, on 93 cents, this is where you would want to have a limit order put in because the price has not reached that level yet. And you could have your limit order set ready at trying to capture. Well, mine is rounded to 93 cents, but the target is actually 87 cents. So for that support down there, you could have a resting order. And anytime that you have a sitting limit order, you could actually be making a little bit of money because at that point, you're kind of creating a market for the exchange. Right. So you could be actually getting a tiny little bit of money just having a limit order set there for the future. It's not so much that you would that it would mean anything, but you wouldn't be paying a ton of fees in that case. So for a limit order, you would put in your price. This is where you want to be putting or where you're going to be entering your position. So in my case that I keep talking about is the 93 cents. So at 93 cents is where I'm going to start my position. So when the price comes down to 93 cents, it will pick up my order and I would be in a position at that point. We'll continue on through limit order and then we'll get to market and possibly trigger. So then I'm going to say how much XRP I want in this position. So you could say you have the slider here to do like 25% of your account on your exchange. Getting up to 50% is pretty high. So normally on like a trade, you would do very small position sizing. So we're just going to do like 5%. It kind of tells you what each one is. That's 318 XRP. And then you could click take profit and stop loss here. And early on, enter where you're going to take profit or stop out. You can manage this after you're in the position, but you can do it up front as well. A lot of people will put it up front because it helps them determine how much before they place the order that they would be profiting from the order. So let's just say that we're coming up to the first extension level.
I was curious.
I knew you were going to wonder where I was putting that take profit. So 617 is our first extension level. So if I buy 93 cents and I take it up to 617, it kind of shows you here how much you would be making on that order. So I'm risking about 318 XRP. And I'd be making a pretty good profit off that trade. So I'd be making about $1,666. So that's just kind of showing you what a typical trade would be like. And to trigger, you can also put in your stop loss. I always like to set my stop loss after I'm in the position and after we get a reaction off the fib, because as we're starting to come down towards 93 cents, that would be the time where it's going to trigger stop losses. I wouldn't recommend putting your stop loss in right away. You kind of want to wait until the market has a reaction and then you set your stop loss. Mm-hmm. And then I would just click buy long here.
So right now, before we click buy long, we can see what the liquidation price is going to be. Yes. And you can adjust your leverage accordingly to whatever your risk tolerance is.
Yes. So this is what Tara's talking about down here for our liquidation price with all the parameters we have set. If if XRP comes down to about 62 cents, it would take everything that's in my position. And because we're on isolated margin, it's just what's in the position. It's not your entire account. If we were on cross margin, our liquidation would be very, very low. But you can't manipulate the entry price of your position as well on cross margin. And again, you're risking your entire account if you do that at that point. But it just says here, this is going to cost us 100 USDT. So at the 93 cents, my 317 XRP is around 98.58. Wait, is that right? Because it's 318. That doesn't seem right, but that's what it's trying to tell us, right? $100 to place that.
Actually, that might be the fee for the trade closing. So like the entire fee that you'll be paying from
Possibly.
beginning to end.
Once it closes. Okay. Okay. So I think that that's one example. If we were going to trade the reverse trade, which is a short trade, we would be having a limit order. Like for instance, there's a possibility of XRP coming up to $1.53 right now, and it's wave 2. I don't advise that we short that, but if for some reason you wanted to get into a short, you would set a limit order for that price above. So $1.53, still keeping like 5% into your position, and then you would take profit lower. So you may want to take profit at our 93 cents. So you're going to be shorting from $1.53 to 93 cents. And this is your profit here. Not as much as the one when we were going up to $6.17, but it does kind of lay it out for you what that position would profit you. I do think it's dangerous kind of having this here because this is kind of what tempts people to put in more leverage is when they see like, oh, if I were to just raise this to 5 times leverage, I could make a lot more. If we put this to 5 times leverage, you can see that instead of 115, it's like 193 now. So that it's kind of where we get that dangerous game of leverage. And so try to stay controlled.
Yeah. And you can see the liquidation price dropped a lot lower than when we were on 3 times. So the price, it's going to be liquidated. I can't read it from here, but
yeah.
So it's going to be liquidated at $1.87. Is that it?
It's $1.82.
Okay.
So in the short scenario that we have set up, that would be shorting $1.53 was our entry point. If price were to come all the way up to $1.83, we'd be liquidated and out of our position. So that's kind of what that's looking like. This is, since we have our pricing set up for like a short, it's not right for the long.
And let's change it back to the 3 times and then see how high that raises the liquidation.
Okay. So on 3 times, so less leverage, we would be able to come up to 203 without getting liquidated. So it was 182. On 3 times leverage, we're at 203. So if we're entering at $1.53, price can come all the way up to $2 and we would still be in our position at that point. So much safer in that case.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a limit order. There are situations where you may want to market order. So whenever possible, you want to set a limit order because there's less fees, and setting a limit order kind of proves to yourself that you're analyzing the market first and not just quickly trying to get into the market without doing your proper analysis. So with market order, there still are times that you may want to do that. This is basically saying, I want to buy right now, whatever the price you can fill my amount at is where I want to buy. And this is where you could get a lot of slippage, where even though the price right now is $1.42, if I were to market buy, and if I had quite a bit, like a large order, you could have a very large spread of what the market is actually filling your order at. So limit order is nice because it helps control exactly where your entry price will be. Market's a little bit different. It's like more emotional, where it's like, okay, I want to buy, impulsive. I want to buy, 5% of my account right now. Wherever you can fill it at, that's what I want. But there are times where you may want to enter in market, and this is how you do that. So you don't need as many parameters as a limit. You would just put the amount you want to buy, so maybe 5 times. And I do think a lot of the controls are or on exchanges really aren't suited for more serious traders, because like you can see the position size, like no one would really go up to, like if you're a serious trader, you take very small position sizes, nothing like this. And then especially with leverage too, like coming up to, 125 times, that is just ridiculous. So there's a lot of temptation on the exchange here to try to get you into those bad situations. But you don't want to be doing leverage or futures unless you're able to control your emotions, and you have done your proper analysis. So 5%, I'm going to buy, right away. And in this case, I can still enter a take profit. If I were shorting, if once I hit short, obviously we would want to take profit at a smaller or a lower price. So this would be like $1.93. And then I could sell short. I am not going to do that right now. I want to try to analyze something and maybe get into a position if we can. But selling short, you can see that our liquidation price is $1.89. And this is the cost. I think it is in fees, like you're saying, Tar, the cost to enter that. And this is our profit there. So if we market short right now, and take profit at 93 cents, you would be making about $100. And I have just a very small amount into my position. And then the reverse, if we were to market buy right now, so instead of market short, we're going to market buy, and we take profit at $1.53. Not very high above the current price. So we actually are only getting like $20 into that trade. But our liquidation would be about 95 cents. So that kind of gives you an idea of how it all works and plays out. Trigger order I use when I'm scalping. So for trigger order, this is basically whenever we're making a new low and we're waiting for the price to come up to like the 118 retracement, we're waiting for that confirmation, and we're waiting for a little bit of a cross above 118, we would do a trigger order at that point, because if we were to set a limit order for the price above right now, it's going to execute immediately, because the current price is more favorable than where you're kind of waiting for the market to get to for that confirmation. So it's pretty simple. The trigger price would be your fib that you're kind of waiting for the market to get to, which is normally the 118 whenever I'm scalping. And then your order price. You can set a limit or market. Like you could say, once we cross 118, I want you to market buy. And you don't have to put in a price. You kind of just do it. A limit order is a little bit more controlled, where you can say, I want you to cross above the 118 fib. So that would be the price here. And then I only want to buy that 118 price. And there's a risk where if you do a limit order, you may not get filled because you have that parameter set that's very specific. You also run the risk, though, if you put in a market order, because the price could really take off from 118, and you may have that slippage that we talked about, that huge spread with the market trying to fill your order. So always suggested to do limit just to stay as controlled as possible. And then you just have your position size, and you'll buy long or sell short. So pretty simple stuff there. Another good tool is the calculator. This allows you to calculate different liquidation points. So if you're trying to understand, a lot of times if you are trading, you may have your first position that you have a liquidation point at, and you may want to calculate where your next liquidation point would be at. So if you were dollar cost averaging in a leverage position, say I buy 93 cents and my liquidation was at 65 cents, I could enter another order for 68 cents to kind of protect me from that next liquidation. And this kind of helps you track where that future liquidation price would be. So this is, you have your long, your short. This right here is the liquidation calculator. That's what helps you determine what liquidation would be. You also have your P&L, which is the same information over here, but it's a little bit separated out into this menu here.
And
So
then the
that's
average
something-
entry price is what you just mentioned, when you would have another order to avoid the liquidation, and then that would calculate the average entry, so then you can calculate what your new liquidation price will be from there.
Yeah.
So that's
And I
great.
know that I've had in the past like 3 or 4 liquidation protection points.
orders.
So it definitely happens. And so I think that is everything, at least on the exchange, I wanted to go through. I was really hoping that we would be at a certain point to get into a position, but this really is not like a trading decision point in the market. It's definitely possible that we break below this trend line here. I was thinking possibly to long, but I don't want to do that because I don't think that this is confirmed. And you can see our RSI is starting to drop. So really no decision point. If we were to come up to like our $1.53, which is the 618 textbook target for wave 2, then that might be a good time to short. But I just think overall, this is not a good time to be shorting either.
Yeah.
So really no trading decisions at this point.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping for like we could actually get into a position, but we really can't. So that is what we wanted to do. I hope that if you were interested in futures or leverage, that just kind of helps ease the confusion or anxiety a little bit with it, because it really is quite simple. And if you just boil the exchange down to its purpose, and that's just to get you into the position, help you manage your position, then it does make it a little bit more simple. And just always use TradingView as your analysis instead of the exchange. You could still put your fibs on here and get the prices, but then as you're tracking and managing your trade, it's just much nicer to have it on TradingView.
And a lot of people are scared to use leverage, but if it's done the right way, it's actually a really important tool for traders, because like Cassie mentioned, we can use less capital and risk less capital, but still make enough money in that trade for it to be worth it. So it's such a helpful tool for traders, and a lot of people are scared to use leverage, but once you understand the risks involved, and like Cassie said, the most risk is that you would be hitting that liquidation point, and it would be taking your position size. So if you understand what the risks are, you can actually use leverage to your advantage. And we highly encourage that you do, because then, like we said, you can use less capital, risk less capital in your position, but still make quite a bit of money. So it's really important to understand how to use it and use it correctly. So thank you for going through the exchange and showing everyone, because I know a lot of people are worried about getting started and don't know where to begin. So it's really great to go through it with someone that knows and explains it very
And really, I think the biggest advantage to using futures is that you have way more trading opportunity, because no longer are we only waiting for the buys to come or supports to be reached. We can also have the shorts come in, and it helps you, like I said, use your analysis a little bit more effectively if you're able to trade both long and short. So if you are, wondering how to start doing this, this is Blofin, and we do have a link where you could sign up right away. I think it's in the description of the video. So go ahead and please use that link if you're going to get over into Blofin. And right now is actually a perfect time to get in there and have your limit order set for our support. You're going to be looking like a genius catching the bottom of this wave too.
Yeah.
And
if
like
we
I
can
said,
add leverage to that position, that would be even better, because the liquidation is going to be under that support, under that fib support there. So once it does start to kick off for wave 3, then we can be very confident that our trade is never going to be reaching that liquidation. And then we can take full advantage of that 3 times, 5 times leverage right on top of that trade there. So that's going to be really awesome to catch.
I actually have my buy as a spot buy on Coinbase. I think if you are going to buy that 93 cent or 87 cent support, definitely want to stack your protection orders, because it could be a time where we come down for a really large wick that tries to eliminate leverage, but your best bet is going to be catching that support. An 854 retracement is significant. And buying the fib levels is how you kind of play the game instead of buying in between them. The liquidation points actually target different fib levels. So you want to stay very calculated. And yeah, I would definitely stack production orders there. Once you're into your position, there is an auto margin selection that you can select, where if you are getting close to your liquidation point, it can pull more money into your position to help keep you from hitting liquidation. There are disadvantages for having that enabled. Like if it does use up your money in your account and it doesn't average your entry point. So it's highly advisable to have another sitting order there, because if that next order gets picked up instead of your auto margin, then it will average your entry point between the two entry points, as opposed to auto margin just will take your money anyway. It will lower your liquidation, but it doesn't average you out anymore. So I definitely recommend having another order protecting you as opposed to auto margin. But there's cases where you may want that in. Like if we're dropping really hard, sometimes the exchanges can't keep up and they might get overloaded, and you may not be able to enter in another order quickly to save you from liquidation. So there are times that you may want to have that as a fail safe, but still try to keep like stacked orders at your liquidation points to help protect you there. And just knowing that if you do have a protection order go off, that adds that to your position. So you're pulling in more money into your position. Cross margin's a little bit different because you can't really add in any more to your account to protect you any further. That's why I stay on isolated. And if needed, I'll just pull more money into my position if it's going towards my liquidation level. But coming down towards your liquidation level is really a sign that something isn't right.
Yeah.
It's a sign that your analysis maybe wasn't, like you were in the wrong wrong scenario. So keep that in mind, that if you are approaching liquidation, there's something else in your analysis that you didn't get right, and you should maybe rethink and reconsider. The safest thing to do is set a stop loss and not have the market come down towards your liquidation. Definitely what we could see is you could buy 93 cents and the market will likely have a reaction off of that level. So once it starts to have its reaction, you could set your stop loss right below your buy or even at your buy at even, and kind of play it from there. You might get triggered in your stop, but it would keep you from coming down towards a liquidation point. So never risk money that you can't lose, because it's definitely a game that you're playing, and people get better at it the more they do. But keeping your emotions in check, like not having your position size so high. If you are in a position and you're getting heavy anxiety about the position, you may have your position size too high, or your liquidation or your leverage may be too high. So try to think of how your emotions are in your position to gauge whether or not you're risking too much money or not. And you want it to stay fun. That's really a big point of it, is like you're not getting so anxiety and you're not attached to so much to the money that's in that position. Because that's when things go bad.
Well, and that's why they shut down a lot of the exchanges in the U.S., because people were not trading responsibly, which is, Blofin is one of really the only exchanges left where if you are in the U.S. where you can go in and take advantage of leverage and futures. And so it's really one of the only ones left for us in the U.S. So if you guys are looking for an exchange to go and do that, definitely check out Blofin. They're a great exchange. They have great support, and they don't actually hold your funds on the exchange, which makes it very safe. They use a third-party custodian, and they mirror the funds on their exchange. So it just is another fail-safe or another protection for your funds to know that your funds are safe when you're using Blofin. So
and a lot of times, like an exchange who is in control of your funds may actually be using your money somewhere else. So that's what's really that's what's really great about Blofin, is your money is there, and it's still your money. It's not being controlled by the exchange in any shenanigans that way.
Definitely.
Thank you. I think now we can get into altcoins, and then get into maybe a little bit of a recap about what we talked about earlier on. So Yeah, I think that's it on futures and leverage. We want to do more of these type of segments where we're going through maybe different projects or different processes of trading. So let us know what you guys want to see in upcoming live streams. We have talked about doing like flare wrapping. We can show how to do that. Talk about putting an order on the DEX, the decentralized exchange. We can show how to do that. So anything you guys are kind of wanting to know, we want to show you and break it down in a really clear, simple way. That's our goal here. So let's flip back over to the market then.
Okay.
And get into some of these altcoins.
All right.
You were saying that there were a few that you wanted to get into. Do you want to start on a few or just have me start going through my list here?
Maybe you can start going through your list. I know a lot of the ones that, or are you saying like because the ones that just got clarity?
Yeah.
Or, okay, yeah. So I can read that list off to you. So we have, it's basically a lot of the ones that we already knew were very strong projects to begin with. And they broke, the SEC and CFTC broke down like the classifications, I guess you will, for the different types of crypto, which is really nice. So there's the digital commodities, there's the digital collectibles, the digital tools, which are the utility tokens, and then stable coins, and then securities. So they broke it down like that, which is very helpful for us and is really needed for the market to continue on and grow. So for the commodities, it's basically decentralized network, a decentralized network where no one authority or central group is making money off of that, off of you buying that coin, basically. So we have, these are now classified as all of the commodities. They specifically mentioned 16 of them. I'm wondering if they're going to put out another list or if they're going to even do more lists like that. I don't know if this is a full encompassing list, but so far we have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Cardano.
As a commodity?
Dogecoin, Avalanche, Chainlink, Polkadot, HBAR, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Stellar, Shiba Inu, which was interesting to me, Tezos, and Aptos. So those last two I thought were really great because those are pretty low market cap. The lower market cap you go, basically the higher opportunity. So I think we could, I don't know, I think I have Aptos chart, but maybe we could look into those into another stream. But that was really interesting to me because those are really the lowest cap of all that entire list. Yeah. So, and then, so that's the full list there. So another one, Dogecoin. I mean, it really bothers me just because it bothers me that so many millionaires were made overnight with that coin and I missed out. So I'm really annoyed with Dogecoin, but I'm actually shocked it made that list. But those are all
that's crazy.
And we know Algo is not on that list, which is surprising.
Did they get classified at all, or?
I don't think so. I don't think they did. That's why I said I don't know if this is a full encompassing list, but this is what we have so far. So all these coins, because they're commodities, are going to be under the CFTC oversight instead of SEC, which is great. That's what we want. That's what we want. When we're in crypto.
Can you repeat the last two, Tar? You said Aptos.
Yep, and Tezos.
Tezos.
Yeah. So let's get it. So I know a lot of the ones that we go through every week, a lot of them are on that list. Maybe we can pick those out, go through them, and then I think I have Aptos, and then maybe next week we'll prepare for the other ones that we don't go through today, because I know we're running out of time. So we'll have to be quick going through these altcoins. And then maybe next weekend we can prepare some of the charts for some of these commodities.
So I haven't looked at SHIB in a really long time, but what's interesting is that it came down like perfectly to my red line. So this is actually, I'm pretty sure, new all-time low on SHIB. That is actually double bottom to its all-time low. And that's why I had that red line there, and really nice setting up there. This is the daily time frame, and even the second touch at the trend line there is creating a bullish divergence. So this could really be a good time to be getting in on SHIB. So we have probably that as the stronger low. We could really start to kick off from here. This is the bullish divergence here. I'll have that marked where we're meeting the same support and we're creating a bullish divergence there. It hasn't really adjusted my targets a whole lot because it's all pretty much at that same level, and it went to the level that I was expecting it to. But we have 6991. This should heavily extend, just being this weird meme coin that it is. But 11,000, whatever that price is, these are what I'm tracking. I have said, like, how crazy would it be if she came up and tested this top trend line? Just because over in the beginning, we have like this weird trend line forming. Could happen. But basically, we'll have to just track the subwaves on the way up and kind of see where this is landing. But pretty significant. And this
so what's
would
that
be
opportunity from now?
Okay, so from now up to the first extension, which it should heavily extend, that's over 1,000%.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the first extension, if I were to show that, that is at 1,700% from our current price. And both of those are definitely possible. And like we said, these should heavily extend.
And the fact that this was on that list shows that there's going to be institutions that are going to be a lot more willing to invest in these commodities because of the clarity that they received. So there's a really good chance that this could push to the actual target for that wave 3, which is so crazy to think that it could go 1,800%.
Yeah. That next extension at 3618 is upwards of 2,500%. So that's at 15,027 for those last digits. So we'll kind of see where this goes. But overall, what we're seeing right now is that this is a significant bottom here on SHIB. And really, these lower tier altcoins, they don't have to follow. And really, they're in a different market position than XRP and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If we were to come down to new lows on Bitcoin and XRP, it does not necessarily mean that these other coins will. We could, any chance that we could come up and just kind of keep holding it as a bottom, we likely will. Because a lot of these have hit significant support. And we can see that here on SHIB, that this is really good. Should take off at any time. That would be so exciting to see. Let's do something.
I might have to buy some SHIB. And before I was very hesitant because I don't really follow the project that much. But now that we know that it has clarity and it's an actual commodity, then that's really good for the future.
Yeah, and all these coins, getting that really news. Good. Yeah, and getting that news at support after it's reached its all-time low again.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of exhausted now.
We've seen that this does have the potential to run. And so that's what we want to see.
Yeah. I mean, look at these.
Yeah.
When it runs, it runs.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on.
Next?
Let's look at XLM because that one we've said in the past like how boring it is. But let's see if anything has changed here on XLM. Okay, so I'm pretty zoomed out here on the daily. We were wanting it to hold this 854. Nothing has changed in this. It is trying to hold it. We do have a good solid trend line. Like, let's put that in there. It has some room to come down, which is likely just right back down to the 1535 support. That's 854 retracement, but nothing has changed in our targets here. So we're looking at probably $1.05 or $1.61. So I don't want to say it's like not a good return because it's only 16.5 cents right now. So it is still a pretty good return, but there are more exciting returns than this.
Coming in my headphones.
And it is we do have a little bit of room down to support. So 1535 is where I would be looking to get in on XLM. It's already tested it quite a bit. But we do have room on our RSI trend here to come down, possibly to that trend again. So that price right here, 1535. Yeah, nothing has really changed in that. It looks, SHIB almost looks more like it's like right at bottom, ready to take off, where XLM isn't so much ready.
Let me get a couple others because I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to quickly look at those others too.
Here's GRT. We are still struggling to break up above the 118, which is holding as resistance. And this is a new all-time low here. So the only thing I'm really tracking here on GRT is that we don't make a new low. Because it's really hard to get a target once we start making new lows, new all-time lows. I'm just waiting for this to take off. We have a pretty good trend line that's actually breaking as support. But I know a lot of people are interested in GRT. Let me just refine this a little bit more for the daily. So you can see we're pretty much like right at the support. We could start to break it a little bit. I have a lot of GRT because I bought almost every one of those retracement levels that are there. But the reason I bought is because you can see this opportunity here. We have our first retracement level at 35 cents, but our main target at 69 cents. So a lot of room from our 2.5 cents to get some good profit out of that. And really on the daily, we are kind of leveling off with our momentum building up behind the scene there. So I'm pretty excited about GRT. Even if we make like a new low, slight new low, it's okay. And what I'm seeing is that at the low that it made, we have our fib levels above kind of aligning pretty nicely. So it helps to confirm that the low is in, but really not a whole lot to go off of confirming that there is a low in. I'm just kind of holding, waiting for the glory days, waiting for that to come up and take profit. I'm really thinking that we could target 69 cents, but just like all the other ones, once we start to get some subwaves on the wave up, then we'll be able to pinpoint one of those a little bit better.
Yeah.
Did you want to flip to another one? You said Zcash someone was interested in?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's Zcash. And let me extend just a little bit with time.
It's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It looks like it reached the 1-to-1 for C already.
Yeah. I think we did put that in at one point, and it was a lot lower. But let's just quickly do that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a little bit lower, but still it's being held by the 786. We could go as low as $1.15 if it were to play out a perfect ABC. And there's a lot of participation in Zcash, which could drive it down to $1.15 area. And I think that this was our wave 3. So it is very possible that we have a double bottom at $1.79 or go as low as $1.15. What you would want to do if you did want to trade this or get in on the next low, let me just quickly get the wave 5 and see where that's aligning. Because it should align at one of those. Okay, it's definitely closer to our $1.15. So if you wanted to buy in on Zcash, that is where I would be targeting this level right here. It's kind of similar to XRP. This flush was pretty strong, especially on the daily. The lowest low in price is still making a new low on our RSI, so we would expect another low again. So right towards this area, $1.16, so it's well rounded. That could be what you want to buy in on.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's Zcash. HBAR we've shown in almost every one of these lives.
Yep. It's looking good.
Still at our 854 retracement and kind of building out support there. There really isn't much below an 854 retracement. The next thing would be a double bottom, which I don't think that it will. I think we really want it to hold this 854 here, and it's kind of flirting with that right now. So we'll have to watch this closely. The targets above for HBAR would be $1 pretty much, or $1.40. So those are the two extensions that we're looking at, and I do think it should extend. Definitely above 70 or 65 cents, or what is that, 67 cents. We're looking at $1 or $1.40. We'll kind of see what happens. I hope that these coins don't get affected too much by Bitcoin, and it's way down to 50,000.
Yeah.
But they are right at support. So how is that going to work?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
So we'll find out.
It's going to continue ranging or just get murdered.
I'm going to flip over to my chart. I pulled up both Aptos and Tezos just really quickly. And 1 second.
Look at that on Aptos.
Wait.
That is not what we want to see.
Why can't I get my chart?
It's like
Where's my
searching
chart? There we
for
go.
a bottom there. And there's not a whole lot indicating
Yeah.
that that's a low.
So what was interesting to me is that both of these are on Coinbase, which is awesome because we want these to be listed on major exchanges to participate in the wave that's coming. So a lot of people will be able to participate in both of these. And now that these were both deemed commodities, this is just going to get really exciting. But I wanted to show you, Cass, because Aptos made a new low. They both made a new low. Aptos is very low. And Tezos is also very low too, almost building more of a base than Aptos. I know this just got listed though. What day was that? In 2022. So really not that new. And this was in 2020. So they're not new projects. But the fact that they did just get the clarity like that and they are making new lows, this could be a really good time to get into both of these coins before we start to, right now we can't really track anything because of the new low. Once it does start to come back up and form some waves, we can get some targets put in here. But the fact that this one is so low,
and look at the waves on Aptos. Like I would not be confident trading that. There's
in this one either.
Little. Yeah, I mean that one has more waves at least.
Yeah.
But I wonder what the lows are looking like on the daily. Are we getting any signs of a bullish divergence up towards the daily?
I don't know, but you can see the monthlies is starting to curve up a little bit. There's going to be some resistance there, and you can see on the price it'll be at the last low. It's going to be resistance. But once that breaks up at around $4 and what is that? 366. Once it does break up, this could take off just like how these waves did over here. So this could be a really good time to get into Aptos and even on Tezos because it just made a new low. And the fact that it just got clarity and is listed on larger exchanges means that these ones could do really well in that next altcoin season. So I'm going to flip over to the smaller time frames for Aptos just so we can take a look at that RSI. It's trying to level off, I would say. And look at the RSI on the weekly is also leveling off a little bit. A little hard to see, but you can see that's leveling off and finding support as well. This is the weekly time frame. And really not much movement. I know it dropped a little bit here, but it looks like this could start to turn around.
Volatility is essentially zero, which could lead to a good, strong breakout. So that's nice.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to go in a little bit further. So yeah, you can see this one actually looks like I don't know much about the project, but as far as the waves go, definitely not one for trading. You definitely don't want to be using this one for trading, but for your portfolio and accumulating, it's looking like this one could be a really good one to have in your portfolio.
Can you pull up the RSI just a tiny bit, Tar, so I can see the bottom of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it is almost like a new low. Continue, like the new low in price.
Let's go like that. So
where's our low?
So it is a low. It was a lower low on the RSI, so it really could come down. But since it's so much lower in like a new all-time low, so much lower than where it's been, this could really be a good time. Now, even if it comes back down to here, like this is at 99 cents. It could come to 80 cents again, like maybe even a double bottom here. But in general, this is looking really good. Yeah.
Well, it is technically a bullish divergence because at that period where there's the low in price to the right, there it is higher.
Yeah.
And so and this is daily, so it's a pretty big time frame to print that
and look
diversion.
At these candles.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of trading action or any type of action happening.
I would avoid trading this with leverage.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
And spot buy could be okay.
Yeah. I really think so. Let's measure the
Oh no, we're not going to measure that extension either because we already know this was so much lower than where it's been trading at for basically its entire
You can't
life.
even get an extension
So,
price because it's an
yeah.
all-time low.
Yeah.
We need some
So,
subwaves built on the way up.
yep.
And
then
then
this
kind
one
of same
here.
with Tezos too.
Yeah.
New all-time low. We have no subwaves on the way up. And then can you go to daily so we can see
Yeah.
on
Is this going to change my, let's see. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
That
actually
is
not looking
showing
bad, but
that's showing more of a bullish divergence on the daily, where prices coming down, closing low, and our size coming up.
yeah. But look, it could have one more low. But we know just in general, this is so low right now that it might just range here, even if it comes down to like the other next low and still hold the bullish divergence. So, but in general, this whole range here is a really good buy on this coin.
What's that ticker of that, Tar?
It's XTC or XTZ.
XTZ. Okay.
Yeah. So these ones we definitely should be following. And at all the commodities that were listed on that news, on the regulatory news that we just got, all of those are what we should be tracking and having. And we could even look at the opportunity, maybe not on these ones because they made a new low, but we can try to see which ones are going to be the best opportunity from that list and start to build out a really good portfolio because these ones are going to be the ones that take off for altcoin season. So.
And really, in general, it's just a good sign that we're starting to get some kind of clarification on how they're classifying these and what they're thinking. I like that they're breaking it down and not classifying everything together.
Yeah.
So that shows that they're a little bit more evolved than they were, when back years ago when they were talking about trying to classify this. So that's good.
Really good.
I'm going to flip it back over. Some people are asking about Gala. And I wanted to quickly show that. I know we're running out of time, but let's quickly show this and then recap what we talked about today on XRP and Bitcoin. So this is where we're at with Gala. Gala actually hasn't made a new all-time low, but we are really struggling to break up too at the same time. So very difficult here. Its all-time low was at 259 and we're at 334. So really just the same that we're saying on all these smaller cap coins is we are coming to significant levels. A lot of them are forming almost like a small base here. I'm hoping that we don't drop to new lows when Bitcoin does, but it is possible that we do that, especially because some of these are making new all-time lows and there isn't a whole lot of support once you're below all-time low. And not a whole lot you can do with waves because there's none printed. But yeah, this is just kind of what we're waiting on here. And I also have Gala. Gala you can only get on an exchange. I don't think it's on Coinbase. But there is significant opportunity here for Gala where we're coming up to possibly 12 cents or 18 cents once we really kick off. So at our, less than a penny, that is a pretty good return there for Gala.
Yeah.
I don't like though that it's not on Coinbase because just like you said, where retail will start to come in and to get excited once we're on our bull run, they're going to flock to the ones that are on Coinbase because it's really easy to get into. A lot harder for them to join a random exchange and get into something else. So definitely want to look at the ones that are listed on Coinbase. So that's a good call there. Let's zoom in just a little bit more. Okay. So this is the 1 hour XRP. What we talked about is XRP is coming right back down to this major trend line here. What we're thinking is that this could ultimately hold as support and push it up towards a wave 2, which is coming in short because Bitcoin is nearly done with its reaction off its wave 5, this impulse coming down. It's pretty much already reached its target for its wave 2. I don't know if we're going to get a proper, reaction on XRP. What we really need to pay attention to is this trend line. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more. This is the significant trend line here. This is what we've held all throughout our wave 4. This is the bottom. If we are going to start to drop towards our 87 cents, what we would see is a drop below the trend line and a back test of resistance. That's a clear indication that that whole consolidation is now resistance and we're coming down. On the reverse, there is still a chance that we come up from here for our wave 2. So we're just kind of waiting on some development there, but all eyes on if we can hold this support or not, or dropping down towards our targets. And we have this, 5 wave that we're trying to track on its way down. It is aligning perfectly, measured out towards the 87 cents. But I just have little faith that XRP is going to play the waves perfectly on this last wave. But still, we have to measure it like as if it were.
Yeah.
So the standard retracement target is $1.53. Like I said, right now it's coming in short with what has printed so far. So we could see anywhere from like $1.50 up to $1.53 before turning around and being able to break that level there. So yeah, we're just seeing if this is all we needed for our wave 2, which is just a tiny little wave 2. But it could definitely be possible, especially if we start to break this trend line here. Not a whole lot of time left in this consolidation. And as we approach the apex more, it just increases the chance that we're going to get a major break down. Down. And now that we're holding, over a month below the 618 retracement at $1.65, that's what's making our lower supports much more likely. So still aligned that we could see 87 cents. We have talked a little bit about a slight reaction off the double bottom, which is at like $1.09, $1.11 area before getting the strength to break down towards 87. So that's still totally possible that we do that. I think any impulse that we see right now is just going to be short-lived until we start to come down there. The only thing that invalidates that wave down to 87 cents is price breaking above 204, which is the 382 retracement. In some exchanges, the 0.5 retracement. So I think that we definitely have a long way to go and still are looking at the 87 cents support.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hate to bring the bad news, but I think any impulse up here is going to be short-lived and probably top at $1.53, if that even gets the strength to go there. So do you want to talk a little about? Okay, yeah.
Just to do a recap really quick, and we have to get going soon. So here's Bitcoin. Oops, let me take that off there. Okay. So here is Bitcoin. I'm going to get zoomed in just to kind of recap and see what kind of development has formed since we've been live here. So let's see what it's looking like. We're tracking this as a wave 2 coming up. And you can see it still is holding as a wave B. So what we like to see going forward and going into the weekend, we'd like to see this hold here. You can see the bulk of the candles are right in that vicinity still for a wave B. We'd like to see this hold throughout the weekend and possibly push up towards our targets here. We lowered our wave C targets for that full wave 2 just because of how low B went, and you can see A just missed its fib there. So that lowered that wave C target, the end of wave 2, to around 71.8 or 71.9 or so. So this is what we're going to be expecting it to come up probably the start during the weekend, but then all next week we should be coming up and hitting that resistance there at 71.8, and then that's when we should be starting that wave 3 coming down. So wave 3 will get remeasured with whatever top here wave C makes for that wave 2, but we are expecting that next wave after this wave 2 is done to come down to a double bottom. So if you missed earlier, why is this all weird? Okay.
So our large wave 3 could still be next week, like a week away, that we have that large breakdown towards that. And then, so maybe 2 weeks away from bottom, possibly.
Yep, I think 2 or 3 weeks, because this wave 3 is going to take a little bit. And then we have that wave 4 still, another wave 4, which we know can take quite a bit of time. And then we have a full 5 waves that have to form for this 5th wave. So I do think maybe 2, 3, a few weeks left till we hit the bottom. And if you guys if you guys want to learn how to chart and do any of this kind of analysis like we've been showing you today, we also go through our lessons in our Discord. So every Thursday, we're going to be doing a lesson from our course. And this next Thursday, we're going to be building an entire analysis from scratch. So we're going to start with a completely blank chart and bring in everything that we've learned so far throughout our course and show you how to build an independent analysis on Bitcoin. And then Cassie's going to do one on XRP. So if you guys have always wanted to learn how to chart and build an analysis like that, right now is the time to join our Discord. We also are going to be starting next week doing everyday daily live streams just for our Discord. So if you want updates like this, continuous updates, and then also learn how to do it yourself, now's a great time. So if you do want to join us, just go to www.twinsofcrypto.com and you can sign up there to get in our Discord, and we hope you do. We hope to see you there. So if you guys missed any of our replays, or any of the live today, the replays are always posted on our pages right after we're done going live here. And then you can also check it out on YouTube as well. So go back and check out, the entire analysis that we've gone through today, because all of the points that we went through are so important. And we want you guys to stay informed while you're trading the market. So that's really why we do this. And during the week, we post our analysis, we post our charts on Twitter and other places as well. But this is the chance for you guys to come hang out with us, but also learn how to do it yourself, and we can show you why we have the targets that we do. So this is really why we do this every Friday for you guys. So
yeah, thank you. Hope you all have a great weekend, and we will be catching up next week.